last 23 years. And I'm like, where do I start? So, you know, I didn't know where to start, but I think I'm going to take you back to when I was probably, you know, a little girl.
Amen.
But I had my mom, who's always had served the Lord. Amen. And all I remember my mom was working and going to church. Then I had a father that was a drug addict. He was a heroin addict. So we came from a pretty dysfunctional family. And as I got older, a little bit older, probably 7th, 8th grade, my mom was most of the time a single parent because our father was always in jail. I went to junior high, started going out with some friends, which she allowed, but you know, we would lie and say we were going to go somewhere and then end up there. And so we have always known the Lord. She raised us up in the things of God. And it's going to be on the 4th of July, 24 years ago, when I really came to God was when I was shot in the back. And it wasn't being at the wrong place at the wrong time. I was in disobedience and rebellion, and I was supposed to be with my sister and a group of girls. We were going to go visit some friends out. I believe it was Riverside, I don't really remember. But I had started seeing the worst guy in town, and we had stopped over there before we had gone to Riverside, and to make the long story short, I ended up staying there with him, and one of his friends had came and said that he got in a fight, and he said, well, let's go look for these guys. So we had gone, I was like, well, what about me? I started getting really scared because I knew I wasn't supposed to be there. So it just so happens that he's like, okay, well, we'll take care of this, you know, another day. So we go to drop off this girl that was with us, and as we were driving out of her apartment complex, there was a guy that they were looking for. So what had happened is they pulled up into this cul-de-sac, and the two guys that I was with got off the van, and I stayed there. I was panicking, like, oh my God, what am I going to do, you know? So they go to jump this guy, and all of a sudden I'm looking, and we were like in this big old van, and I see a guy come out between two cars, and just comes out and starts shooting. And I was just waiting for these two guys that I was with to fall and hit the ground. But as I saw the bullets coming, I just turned around, ducked, and I remember being on my knees, and I started like going into a shock. So when they finally got to the van, I said, I think I got shot. And anyways, one of the guys, he had felt my back, and that's when I felt all the blood come out. At that point, I was like praying, you know, I started singing praises to God. I don't remember which ones they were, but I started singing praises to God. And the guy that was there, he says, he was holding me, he's like, you're going to make it, you're going to, you know, you're going to be fine, you're going to see Joe, that was the guy that was my boyfriend. You're going to see, I don't want to see this guy, I don't want anything to do with him. I really thought that they were going to dump me, like in the riverbed. I really thought that these guys are going to leave me for dead. So we go to this hospital, and you know, they said it's not an emergency, go to the next city. We finally get to a hospital in Garden Grove, and I'm like, I was afraid, you know, I was like, am I going to die? What's going to happen to me? So I'm laying on the bed, and they push me into like these elevators to go up to the surgery room, and I was asking the nurse, I was only 14 at the time, and I was asking the nurse, am I going to die? You know, what happened? She's like, I can't give you any information. So I remember laying there, and I was like praying and praying, and I've shared this with a few people, but as I was, and this is back in the 90s, so you know, MC Hammer was, you know, hot item back then, and I was there, you know, they had me on the stretcher and going up in the elevator, and I remember seeing this white room, and I heard one of his songs, You Can't Touch This. And I remember, like, after everything, like, that's weird. Why did that, you know, why did I even see that? So, anyways, make long story short, it did stop there. I ended up having 4 daughters from this guy that I was with. And I actually suffered abuse. Any form you can use abuse, I went through it with him. He went to jail, and that was my freedom. I got free from this guy for a bit. Then I ended up turning to drugs, and I was in major bondage for 9 years. And at that point, I had my girls going with me like everywhere. My girls didn't know about parks or anything, you know. They just knew like where all the connections were. And like I said, I knew the Lord all my life. And when a person is in addiction and they know the Lord, it's like you're not free, because God will come down and still remind you, hey, I'm here. And at this time, I remember back, I had gone to some church down the street, and we lived in Corona. And I remember coming back with all my little girls, and I was like, God, I'm just tired of this life. Like, how do I get out of it? And I remember one day after church, we had just got back, and my girls had went into the house, and I had gone to the backyard, and we had clothes, like, we used to hang up our clothes. And I remember going back there, and I was crying, like weeping, like I lost. There was a loss that I was going through, and I'm like, I had even asked God, I'm like, God, why am I crying like this? Like, this is crazy. So it was not even a week later, my kids were taken from me. And God did show me then, but He showed me after. You know, when my kids were taken from me, it was September 7, 2003. That was it. You know, I came to church with my aunt, came over here, and I just gave my life back to God. My cousin, who's right over there, both of my cousins actually, they're the ones that went. I mean, it's amazing to be here giving my testimony when they were the ones who went through it with me. Because you know, when we are not in our right walk with the Lord, our family, I mean, they go in it with us. You know, whether it's we're serving God or not, they're always there. And I thank God for a wonderful family that I have. And anyways, I had got back, you know, came back to church, and been serving the Lord since, and got cleaned up, got my kids back. I got a job. This was like 11 years ago. Got a job, and I met this guy sitting over there, and it was funny because he was wearing this Christian church, this T-shirt. I'm like, are you Christian? I just wanted to know. You know, when the enemy, you know, had a target on my life, and God has given me more. He has given me the abundance of life. I have all my 4 girls. I have 2 grandkids. Amen. I have I have a husband that I absolutely love and adore. Who is a great man. He's been there for my children. He's took us in, and I can't say anything bad about him. And I have 2 wonderful stepsons that, you know, totally respect me, and I am just blessed to be here in His love.